everybody, Sarah Roberts here with ethosmentorship.com, where we connect you with top entrepreneurs so that you can learn from the very best. Today we're talking with Moira Hutchison from wellnesswithmoira.com. She's going to tell us her story and how she left the corporate world behind to become her very own boss. She's also going to talk about how we get stuck in our lives and how we can get unstuck. And she's going to leave us with a tool that we can implement today to get started on making the changes that we want to in our lives. So sit back and relax and enjoy this conversation with Ethos mentor, Moira Hutchison.
Somebody who has, say, worked for a corporate job and they hate their boss, they hate their job, they think it would be so much better if I could be my own boss and call the shots. They don't realize that they have to be that boss they hate. It's a joke between me and my husband. I'll say, he'll be saying, "Are you going to take a day off?" And I'll say, "Well, I hate my boss, I have the worst boss in the world. She's a real bitch." But you have to play that role. And so that's how come business on your own is not for everybody, because you do have to be structured. It's another conversation I have with lots of people is that, oh, well, if I work from home, for instance, I would never get dressed, or I'd never shower and do my hair. Well, I do. You have to have a routine. You have to get up, you have to exercise, you have to meditate, you have to set your schedule. And I do clock on. I do clock on and log into the computer, and this is it. I'm on, and I am dressed as if I'm going to meet clients. Whether I am that day or not, I still go through that. And that you have to have that kind of rigidity in order to run your own business. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. Otherwise, you're going to be that part-time business. And that's a question that a mentor asked me a long time ago, which I think probably is what inspired this for me, was you have to decide right at the beginning, are you a business owner or a hobby owner? Because those hobby owners can sometimes be those ones that say, "I hate my boss, it's got to be better than this, it's got to be, have time off," and they have this idea of being in business on your own means maybe you work 3 days a week. Well, you know what, at the beginning you probably have to work like 8 hours, 8 days a week, and fit that in there to pull it off. And I mean, I don't know if you'll ever get to the place where this ideal, I don't know if people do get to that. So you have to really, really love what you do. For myself, in my own work, I am constantly have at least 1, sometimes 3 courses on the go. And I also have at least 1 or 2 books that relate to the work that I'm doing. And it's really amazing to me how that works, because the amount of times that I will read something at breakfast time and then have a client session later that day, and it's like, oh, I just read this. It happens so many times. There's never any accidents. And that, to me, as a coach and mentor, is why it keeps me going, because I can only help people to the degree I'm willing to do it myself first. And if I ever say, I'm done, I don't need to learn anymore, I've reached the level of training or expertise, then I'm stuck, and I can help a whole bunch of people to where I am, but what's the good in that? I'm gonna quote Brendan Bouchard on this one, where he believes that you have to train yourself on everything. So yes, maybe you should outsource your books and your record keeping, but learn how to do it first. Because there's so many stories of people having outsourced all the things they don't want to do or that they're not good at, but then they get ripped off because they don't know how many hours it really should take or what the value of it is. So I agree that you should outsource what you're weak in, but train yourself on it first. Be willing to step into that. Which is actually funny, because one of my own management training, I was originally trained as a manager in Britain, in Scotland actually, but which you can tell by the accent, right? That you had to be able to do every job underneath you. You had to be able to pick up the phone and do the faxes and fill up the copy machine, everything. Did you do it? No, but you had to be able to go in and do that and be prepared for it. The key piece of that is that, so And that's part of why you need to constantly be training yourself. Because I'm not going to say that you have to train in everything before you can set up a business, but you need to be willing to maybe take a course in bookkeeping, maybe take a course in sales or management or things of that nature. Me running my own business started in 2000. And prior to that, actually, I don't know if you remember 2000, but I worked in the oil patch in Calgary, where, at 2000, the oil prices fell. And so there's a number of service companies got affected by that. I was an office manager and marketing controller for a service company that was based in the States. And I watched the Canadian office just basically plummet. I could see it coming probably 6 months in advance. And I consciously made the decision that I wasn't going to work for other people again. Like, basically, I ran this company. I called the shots. And in that kind of environment, I didn't think I was going to get that kind of job again. So my husband helped me write an ad to put in the paper, and I offered to run other people's companies. And it was really cool because as I shut down the office in Calgary, the American office became my first client. So I ran their website and their marketing operations, and then I had 12 clients that I ran their companies, the small businesses, and I did everything from, well, bookkeeping is one of my biggest skills. So I did their books, I did website development, marketing, you name it, I pretty much did it. And then, to back up from that, in 1998, I had actually first got sick and carried on working for the company that I was working with. And my health just kept kind of rebounding. So in 2000, here I am working for 12 different clients, and got sick again, burnt out really badly. And at that point, I did a lot of research on why do people get this sick? Because my doctor had just basically put me on antidepressants and wanted me to join a support group where people that had this kind of illness wanted to talk about their life being over. And I made a conscious decision not to do that, and found out that one of the reasons that people burn out in the way I did is that they're not following their life path or their life purpose. And from that point, I then basically got back in touch with my original desire in life, was to be a healer. And so I started training. And so here I am, burning out, but then so passionate about learning how all the different modalities. I started training. My poor husband, he thought I'd disappeared because I was training on the evenings and weekends and still running these 12 companies. So it was funny because I would tell people that I was burning out and they'd be looking at my schedule thinking, I don't know how you fit things in, but I did. And that's my key part, is when you get the passion, when you get connected with your own passion, it doesn't matter. Like, you do find the time, you do find the energy, you do find what it takes to do it. So I did that, the 2 jobs. I transitioned into my healing practice and actually did running the corporate clients as well as developing a healing practice. And I did it half and half up until about 2004. So 2004, I actually then went full-time into the coaching and mentorship, which is kind of a long-winded way of saying, I really get why it's really important to find a mentor. I actually found the mentorship within me, really. But I think in looking back, it would have been so much nicer if somebody could just have taken a perspective and said, how about doing it this way? Or basically making that process that I went through a little bit shorter. So that's my story about getting stuck into what ended up being my new role as being a mentor to many people. I've talked a lot about the different aspects of people getting stuck, and it's to do with their own personal image of themselves, right? That's the I can't do this, or I'm a failure because, and you're listening to some past programming, that's one of the key things that gets people stuck, is to say there's no point in starting, or there's no point in trying because I'm going to be a failure, or I am a failure, as opposed to viewing that that consideration. That's what I call the first obstacle to getting where you want, is the consideration of I can't do it, or I'm not qualified enough, or what will people think of me, or I've always failed in the past, so why am I going to try again? All of those things are considerations, but if you can start seeing them as something outside of you and actually reignite that passion that you want to actually achieve something, because you are not that consideration. I am not that thought. I am here. So it's to actually fire up what is it you want to do. What is it that you're here in this life for? Because every one of us has something that only we bring to this life, and it's our responsibility to actually bring it out. And so when we get stuck, we're actually failing ourselves, but we're failing everybody else around us. It's not a choice. We have to move forward. So one of the biggest things that I do with people is actually inspire that sort of degree of introspection to actually start weeding out what's the guidance that's coming through. Because sometimes you're being told, no, you can't do that, because no, you can't do that, because you should not be doing that, and that's cool. But the voices that are saying, don't do this because you're a failure, or you're going to fail, or listening to past patterning that was like mom and dad said, you'll never amount to anything, or the teacher said, don't even try doing this. That's where you start to really develop an unconditional, loving relationship with yourself. Because until you can do that, you're going to be listening to all these other voices, which I think this is a funny part, that I help people own the fact that they've got multiple personalities and start laughing at themselves. Which, once you can start lightening up, then you are more able to commit to a plan of action, to actually start moving forward and actually start seeing what it is you are achieving as opposed to what you are not. And the more you can do that, the more you can actually make the healthy choices. You can actually, once you make healthy choices and you start feeling good, that then makes you more inspired to do more. If you think about having to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you're really tired, but you start to see people lighting up when you talk to them, or you start seeing people say, thank you so much for being here, or showing up, or doing whatever it is you're out there to do. If it's a product or a service that you're providing, you forget how tired you are, and you forget that it was such a problem to get out of bed. And so you're going to do it again, and you're going to do it again. And it's that, instead of looking at achieving success as this far off destination, if you can just start getting one foot in front of the other. And that's the biggest thing about getting unstuck, is just sitting and saying, what can I do towards that end goal today? Just one thing. That's all you have to do. And then tomorrow it's going to be just one more thing. You don't have to take 20 steps in one leap. But you can end up doing that after a period of time of doing that one step at a time. And you start to realize it's actually way easier than you thought, because you were so stuck in your own thinking. And this is just a thing of giving yourself permission. Give yourself permission to move forward and actually bring back the decision making to you. None of these other voices. That's what I help people do. So many people feel so stuck because they're listening to all these voices. They want to get into a business and they have this idea, product or service, or who are they going to work with, that kind of thing. And they think they have to have it all figured out. The whole thing that I think is the most important is to give yourself permission to take one choice. Pick one. what somebody that I worked with quite a while ago said, pick a horse. You have to pick a horse and ride it, but it doesn't mean you have to ride that horse forever. And that's the thing, is to know that you can change. You can change mid-course, but you have to do something to start. Because when you start, then you get this feedback system with your own self to say, this is how it feels. It's like trying on a coat and saying, how does this make me look? Does it, is this flattering? Do I feel comfortable in it? And going from there. So once you're into that place, you're actually much more connected to your own intuitive guidance and getting the feedback from your heart as opposed to listening to your head. Because that's what we were talking about earlier, about all of the feedback that you've had and that you've recorded from your past, of the critical voices and that kind of thing, the saboteur and the procrastinator, and those kind of roles are coming from past voices, if you like. But to strengthen your own resolve comes about by taking the first step, just one step, and then doing things like, I like to advise people, in fact, I've recorded quite a few guided meditations just to start the day off, just a 5-10 minute guided meditation, or if you can do meditation on your own, that's fabulous. But just that brings your awareness into here. And then you get to take that step. And you are much more conscious of what does the next step feel like, as opposed to saying, oh my God, I have to get this done, I have to get this done. Then you're back into the head energy. And that's where so much stress comes from, is you're supposed to be, we live in a society where it's supposed to be achievement driven. We're supposed to show that we've proven ourselves. Whereas if we could allow ourselves to just take a deep breath, relax a little bit, it's amazing how much wisdom we actually all have inside of us. So that's what I do too, is to help you take a deep breath right now. Just take a deep breath into your belly and see how it feels.